ruthless, young boy, come up off that neck. Into the trends. See you, Lee, be the band.
Welcome to Bleachers and Speakers. I'm your host, Joe, and I got my co-host, B. Foster, with me. And before we get started, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to Bleachers and Speakers on YouTube and also follow us on all the aggregators. That's Bleachers and Speakers, FFSN in the search. You will see that logo of ours. And also, we ask that you hit the notification bell so when we drop content, you will get an alert. And when those shows come on, download those episodes. They don't take much space. You can erase them later. But download those episodes. Check us out. We have another game day today. The Lions march into, is it Soldier Field or is
march into Soldier? I like the play on words, man.
Yeah, Lions march into Soldier Field for a game. It's 1 o'clock Eastern time, 12 Central. And Foster, this is one of those games where you playing right after a loss. So let's cut to the chase. I'm wearing all black for a reason, right?
Okay.
So it's deaf to the naysay talk. It's deaf to the negative talk. We ending all of that today. And I think the Lions have to go in there, and I think they will go in there and make a statement. We're still the Lions because people have forgotten so fast about how good this team is. Foster, I'm going to let you go ahead and say some stuff because I could go on for days. But Foster, how are you feeling about this game today?
I'm feeling good. I think that this team is a well-coached team that, will be fully prepared today. I love the mentality that Dan Campbell has just as far as, we're not here to make excuses about injuries. We're going to continue to do our job. I think that we're going up against a team. We're going up against a team that you can't sleep on, despite them, them kind of giving up on their season and dealing with a lot of different locker room issues. Dan Campbell is definitely going to. He's prepped to to control the game and make a statement because he understands just as much as me and you that there's a lot on the line from here on out, and we are not we're not in a position to where we can take any weeks off. Not that we took the week off against Buffalo either. I just think that we played against a really, really good team that was we played against a really, really good team and they definitely caught us. They caught us at a vulnerable time. So we're gonna come in and handle business today.
I think so. And for those who are curious, heading into Chicago, the weather conditions are dry yet windy. We're looking at a high around game time around 31 degrees, winds 13 miles an hour. But like I said before, both teams have to play in it. So we're not going to even look at weather as being a factor in today's game. Like I said, we both have to play. Both teams have to play during the conditions. So, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with what our team does with those that in cold weather. I'd rather have it cold than rainy. So long as it's pretty much dry, no snow, no rain. I think it won't affect the offense much. One of the things we will miss Montgomery, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk to Foster. We're not going to make any excuses about injuries. We're going to look into what happens when we have those injuries, and this is probably our biggest injury to date on the offensive side without David Montgomery. But me and you know what this means as far as losing Montgomery. You gain more touches from Gibbs, which is dangerous. You also have two very reliable running backs, Craig Reynolds and Vaki. And I want to see more Vaki. I'm ready to see Vaki. Do you hear that, Foster? That noise? Now I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, now I can. Okay, it's gone. But we have two very reliable running backs. Most people, most teams have their starting two, and that's it. Most teams don't have a good two. They have a good running back and a sufficient backup. We're fortunate to have two very good 1 and 2 running backs, and we have two very sufficient running backs. Foster, what's your take on the running back position now that Montgomery's out? Uh-oh. Can't hear you. We're having some technical difficulties. Hold on. Just give us 1 sec. I'm going to filibuster while he's getting it together. Like I said, you lose Montgomery, and if any other team loses because Montgomery is a starter, and there's a lot of teams out there in the NFL, they lose their starter at running back, they're in trouble. And I think we're one of the fortunate teams to have a second running back that will probably start on just about any other team. If not, they will get equal touches on any other team in Gibbs. Then behind Gibbs, you got two running backs that's ready, and you can't even tell me which one is better than the other. Foster, you might want to leave and come right back. Just leave and leave the chat or leave the stage and come back. Yeah. So, So I think we're in good shape. Good news about Montgomery is they have declined season-ending surgery, and they decided to rehab and rest and hopefully have him back for the playoff run. His injury is an MCL injury, and it's nothing like the ACL. MCL is more of a support type of ligament, and he's so strong with his quad muscles and everything else with his leg. I don't feel comfortable explaining about his leg, but anyway, you can protect that MCL with a brace. It can get better over time. There's been plenty of people with sprained or torn MCLs that have taken a couple weeks off and continued to play the rest of the season with a brace or just protecting it, and then have the little cleanup surgery at the end of the season. Brandon Edwards, former Michigan wide receiver, also over at Woodward Sports, was explaining about his former teammate Joshua Cribbs, who had a very similar injury with his MCL, where he's a return specialist. So he's going to, definitely take on more hits, probably harder hits than anybody else. And he's taken off time. He took off 2-3 weeks and came back and played the rest of the season, without any issues, and then did the little cleanup surgery or whatever it is, got scoped in the off season. So that's what you have with Montgomery. And so we expect him to be back in time for the playoffs, and we expect him to be just as good as he once was before, with some rest and some rehab. One of those things with that MCL, you just gotta rest it. You just gotta rest it, let it heal, to where you can actually play on it. I don't think he'll endure much pain. And you got to remember, if the Lions stay the course and they get that number 1 seed, which we hope, you have this week he's going to rest. You have the San Francisco game he's going to rest, and you have the Minnesota game. That's 3 weeks, and then you have another week of bye. That's a month of rest and rehab, and I think that's plenty of time for him to be ready to play in the first game of the playoffs. Now, Do you put him in there as a starter? Maybe, maybe not. But you still have Gibbs, and you can use Montgomery in a reserve role, in the meantime, until he's comfortable, until you're comfortable as a team without further causing further injury and him being able to play at full capacity with that injury. So, but there's no need to rush that when you have two other backs that's capable. Now, not saying that they're better or just as good as Montgomery. We're not saying that. We're saying we do have capable running backs. And we got to remember, you're running behind a pretty good offensive line as far as run blocking. I have my reservations as far as pass blocking as of late. But as far as run blocking, we've been pretty good now. The last game versus Buffalo, I have some issues with the running game, with the offensive line as a whole, especially early. There were some issues there. However, for the most part of the season, the offensive line has been a strength, even when you're not at full capacity. There have been times where we had to sit certain offensive linemen down due to injuries, and you just put another player in, and they've held up pretty well. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, hopefully Foster will be back. If you're listening, you'll hear a few ads. If not, if you're watching, we'll be back in like 10 seconds. Do not take any technical difficulties from my co-host as an indication of what the Lions are going to do today. It means nothing. So hopefully Foster can get it together and he'll be here. Not get it together. Hopefully his equipment will act. He'll get it together in line. It's no slight towards my partner. This rarely happens. It's not a common thing. You know what's crazy? I was on Facebook the other day and someone was like, I hate when these podcasts have technical difficulties at the beginning of the show. It makes me not want to watch. And I'm like, and I commented on there and I said, try being in one and having technical difficulties. I think I jinxed us. The reason why I say that is because that has happened to me. My very first podcast show where I had everything set up to where I liked it. It wasn't the very first show, but one of my first shows but this was the first show where everything was set up. I was using my computer instead of my laptop. I had everything in place, studio set up, everything. And at the very beginning of the show, power down, everything went blank. Now, luckily, I had two co-hosts that held it down, but I was so frustrated. This was the first show where I changed everything around in the studio and it goes blank. So these things happen. So it's not just, with Foster, I've had technical difficulties. I was on a podcast. I was being a co-host of a podcast a couple weeks ago and my camera went out just for no reason. I'm sitting there talking and my camera goes out. Now, the audio was still there, so I was able to engage until I figured what was going on. I still don't know what happened to this day. I just know I had to excuse myself from the room because there was other guests there. I had to excuse myself from the room, leave the room, come back, and everything was fine. And I still don't have an explanation why. And I got good equipment. So it's not a matter of quality of equipment. It just happens. So anyway, let's move on from that. Let's talk more Lions and Bears. The Bears are coming off a loss versus Minnesota. I think the score was 30-10. And I think Minnesota does what they typically do at the beginning of the games to get out to an early lead and they just maintain, they keep people at bay. Sometimes teams come back and make it close, but for the most part, they pretty much hold them at bay. And that's what happened with the Bears versus the Vikings. They looked decent at times, but they looked kind of lost. And then the crazy thing is, and I don't know if it's a smoke screen, but I saw an interview with DJ Moore, the starting wide receiver, and he said, I'm just ready to start vacation. I'm just ready to go on vacation. Now, I have never paid attention. Maybe I haven't paid attention, but I've never seen an NFL check out and say, I'm ready for vacation. Just never saw it, right? Boss, still nothing?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're fine.
Yeah,
You're good. You're good.
Yeah,
You had to shut down and start off.
man, what?
I gave a whole spiel on technical difficulties. So
Hey, sometimes you gotta,
yeah, it happens. You remember that show me, you, and Jose did, and it was at the very beginning. I had everything hooked up to my computer. I wasn't using my webcam on my laptop that day. And soon as the show started, boom, I got kicked out. I powered down and everything. I was so pissed.
There's nothing you can do when technology decides that it's not going. What you gonna do? Like,
yeah. So for those that are out there getting into podcasts and watching this and saying those guys are having technical difficulties, if you ever tried it, one day it'll happen to you. I don't wish anything back, but it's going to happen. It's just how it is. We're not NBC or ABC or Sports Center or ESPN, so even they have technical difficulties.
I was gonna say, and they have whole teams of folks that come in and
so
make real salaries to do stuff.
The streaming has problems sometimes. You know what I'm saying? If you watch the Mike Tyson fight, they were having streaming issues on Netflix. On Netflix, there were people that were subscribed that couldn't even log in.
Yeah.
So it happens. But Foster, I kept talking and I moved past it, but I want to hear your input on what the Lions running back room looks like now without Montgomery.
I mean, Gibbs is a very complete back. I mean, you can really put him in any given situation. So I feel like, honestly, at times he was kind of, I don't want to say it was a disservice that he had to sit on the sideline sometimes, but I feel like, well, for one, his body is probably much more preserved than the average heavy dosage running back, which is a blessing down the stretch. But I mean, the fact that you got a guy that's essentially a Pro Bowler that literally takes series off because there's another 1A or 1B option. It's kind of crazy to think about. So him taking on a bigger role is going to be I think it's going to be a seamless transition, because essentially if he was the number one and Reynolds was a number two, he would be getting a lot more carries and a lot more opportunities. So I think it's a great opportunity for him to flourish. But beyond that, I mean, I think Craig Reynolds is a guy that on your average team would be a serviceable number two. I mean, when you go back to the Swift days, or back to the Swift days and back to the Jamal Williams days, Craig Reynolds was the number two guy, and I think he did pretty well in that role. So I don't think that it's going to be as impactful as people might think, but we'll just have to see. And I've been chomping at the bit to see what Sione Vaki can provide, because he looked really good during preseason. Not to say that preseason is the best indicator of what he can be, but yeah, I mean, he was buried in the depth chart essentially. So this is why you continue to build your team up and make it so that we are deep, because injuries are going to happen. So I'm not terribly concerned, but I am cautious to see about how we look because we were not able to run the ball at all last week with Montgomery and Gibbs. So that's definitely one of the important factors in this game is being able to control the time of possession.
Let me also add that with Gibbs, he's just not a person that you run on the outside. He's more dangerous on the outside, of course, but he's run between the tackles. So it's the game, the running plan, the game plan doesn't change for whichever back that's in there because Montgomery can get to the outside as well. So there's not a lot of change in philosophy or blocking philosophies that Montgomery is going and Gibbs is your featured back. So that's another positive if you want to look at it, so to speak. If you had to look at anything positive, it's losing Montgomery. But the scheme doesn't change. You still run between the tackles. Your running game doesn't change much. You still have the same schemes and plans. Now, one of the things I wanted to address, Foster, is the defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I can say is we've been missing key players all year long. Starting from game 2, where Davenport missed his first game. He played in game 1, missed game 2. DJ Reader did not play in the first game, but he played in game 2. We lost Barnes and Davenport, I think, week 3, I believe.
Pretty early, whenever.
Something like that. And we lost Hutch versus Dallas, and I think that was week 5, something like that. So all year we've dealt with injuries on the defensive side, and we've been learning to cope and play with what we have. Foster, how do you feel about this defense today? You can base it on whatever you like last week or 2 weeks ago. Scheme, coach. However, how do you look at the defense today heading into Soldier Field?
Yeah, it's tough to say. Obviously, Aleem McNeil is one of the major focal points on our defense. So it's been a while. I think he missed a couple games last year, but we really haven't had to feel the ill effects of him being absent. So it'll be interesting to see how we operate without him because he has been very impactful this year. Outside of that, we kind of talked about a little bit is like what do we do in place of Carlton Davis? Carlton Davis has been our number one cover corner all year. He was having a semi, I don't know if it was a Pro Bowl caliber year, but he was playing very well. And we're back with Kendall Vildor on the outside, it looks like, as of right now. So it'll be interesting to see what Eric Glenn does to combat that absence. Whether it's just moving things around, but this is a tough passing attack as far as the Chicago Bears are concerned, especially if Caleb Williams has time. So we're just going to have to see what we're going to have to see if Aaron Glenn can press press the right buttons because we're pretty deep at that in the secondary, but I feel like we were just starting to get comfortable and starting to get into a groove in the secondary. So yeah, that Carlton Davis injury is pretty big.
Yeah. Let me ask you: is Enos Registraw available today?
So he wasn't even on the. Well, I think he was on the IR, maybe, and that's why he wasn't on the injury report. But I'm not entirely sure. I think he's on the IR, and his window is opening soon, if I'm not mistaken.
So, and the reason why I asked that because my next thing is with Carlton Davis out, what are there's plenty of options you have to choose from. Like I said, a lot of teams with these injuries would be dead in the water, right? So you got guys on the bench like you have been waiting for Mr. Mosley to show up. They said he had a good week of practice. He's recovering from a pec injury. The knees are fine. It's just the pec injury he was fighting through. You do have Mosley. You do have Amik Robinson. You do have Iffy that's back off of IR. However, you did lose Brandon Joseph, who got waived, and he was a pretty good backup safety. Like I said, but anyway, I don't want to talk about that just this moment. But you have Branch, who is very well capable of sliding into the Nichols position if you wanted to put Iffy back there at safety. You have some moving parts you can move around, and because you're missing Carlton Davis, you can move some things around. You still have Terry Arnold. You still, like I said, you have Amik Robinson. And you still have Vildor, for what it's worth. So, how do you see the starting defensive backfield looking like, Foster? Do you have any projections? And this is nothing written in stone. This is just us speculating.
So Ennis Registrar is still his window of returning. He's eligible to return today, but I don't think he's ready yet. I think that Kendall Vildor is going to be on the opposite side to Terrion Arnold. With Arnold definitely being the undisputed top corner as of right now. And then I think Amik Robertson is going to be your primary nickel option there in preparation for Emmanuel Mosley being ready. I mean, I think they're obviously bringing him back slowly. I think they're going to bring him back slowly. I don't think they're going to throw him right on the outside against Keenan Allen or DJ Moore.
Kind of rough to do that, or Dunze. Somebody that's
Dunze is probably the slot guy. But yeah, I think that Vildor is going to be the opposite option for him. Branch is definitely capable of playing that nickel position, but he's even questionable today. So he's not 100. He's not 100% with a calf injury. So we'll see. I just hope that Aaron Glenn, because we did. Caleb Williams did have some success, especially in that second half with those mesh routes and those pick plays, and we're gonna have to combat that because they were pretty successful in those situations.
Yeah, I do remember that last game, and Terry Arnold had a pretty rough game from a penalty standpoint. I think he had like a couple called against him. And it's kind of bad when you have two penalties and they consider that a rough game, no matter how much you hold up during the game. And I think he's one of those people that you look for to have a penalty against, like, oh, there he goes again. So, but this is one of those seasons where it's going to make him a better player. And I'm waiting for him to have one of those breakout games any game now. Like, I think at some point he's going to get it. He's a physical corner, always have been. So he's going to do what he's been doing. He just has to get a little smarter with what he's doing. But I think he'll adjust. I think he'll be fine at some point. I'm just waiting for that breakout game. Defensive line wise, how are we looking? Who's out? Who's coming back as of late? I don't want to talk about the don't bring up Hutch because we already know what that is, but or Davenport. But Josh Pascal, is he ready to play today or?
Yeah, so Josh Pascal, I want to say his first game back was last week. He's not on the injury report. It looks like the first couple of days of practice, DJ Reader and Zadarius Smith got rest. It was just under the rest category. There wasn't even a specific injury. And I'm sure that's probably because they're going to have to be play some, ready for, especially without a Lee McNeil. So outside of that, I don't see anybody else as far as Pat O'Connor's when you're ready to go. Levi wasn't on the list. Broderick Martin wasn't on the list. Muhammad, all those guys should be ready to go today.
Right. So let's take another quick break, and when we get back, we'll talk more Lions. This is going pretty fast today. I don't know what the deal is with this, but we'll figure it out. I can't find. Okay, there we go. I'm having technical difficulties now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to it, though. If you're watching, we'll be back in 10 seconds. The Lions are in Chicago, and kickoff is at 1 o'clock or close to it. Sometimes they be prompt at 1 o'clock with the kickoff. Sometimes it's a few minutes after, whatever. 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central. Foster, I see this as one of those games where the Lions have an opportunity to reestablish who they are. 2 weeks ago, there were a chance of us being the best team in the league, and now they're saying Philly's the best team in the league. Now Buffalo's the best team in the league. Right. It's crazy because nobody mentions Kansas City, and they're 14-1.
Yeah, that's crazy. Are they 14? That's wild.
14-1. They lost to Buffalo.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they're not even mentioned in the best teams in the league. They're saying Buffalo's the best team in the AFC. Now, there's a lot of things that go on. I don't think a lot of other fan bases or other teams have to deal with what the Lions deal with. For example, Pittsburgh has lost 2 of their last games. They lost to Philly last week, and they got blew out by Baltimore this week. Now, but prior to that, they were saying how good this Pittsburgh Steelers team is. I do believe they're a good team. However, people are going to lose some games. That's just what it is. But now they're questioning how good they are. And it's like you played two of the best teams in the NFL. I mean, it happens. You know what I'm saying? Remember the show we did with the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens fans, and that guy, there was one of the guys that said the Pittsburgh, they were a different team without the wide receiver.
Pickens.
And I didn't say anything on the show, but I'm like, I don't want to hear nothing about no injury.
Man.
Bro, if we talked about how different,
I think I said something. I feel like I was like, one person really.
You did say something.
Because it was crazy. It was crazy.
And I'm like, bro, try having 17 people on IR. 17.
But their offense just isn't very dynamic. So
it hasn't been since Ben left.
I was gonna say, that's been a while. Yeah, certainly for a while.
Been like that for a while. They've been okay at best.
Yeah. So one impactful player that would make all the difference for them. So I get it.
Maybe so, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
We lost Hutch. We lost Davenport. We lost Barnes. I ain't trying to hear that, bro.
Anzalone. I mean, the list goes on.
Well, I think we're looking. I think as far as injuries, we're going to get some help as the playoff starts.
Yeah.
There's one person, 2 people. Well, there's 3 people that you probably won't see, and that would be Hutch, Barnes, and Davenport. You probably won't see those. Now, Hutch is talking about just get to the Super Bowl, I'm there. Okay? So we'll see how that goes. However, at the same time, you're going to be missing 3 integral parts of your defense, for the rest of the season. So, and I think we've held up pretty good. To be 12-2 at this juncture is more, and it's not like We just got hurt last week. We've been playing banged up since week 1.
Out the gate.
Out the gate. You brought in DJ Reader to help with your interior. He misses game 1. Then you have Davenport. He misses game 2. Then in game 3, you lose Davenport and Barnes. It's crazy. It's crazy. So it happens. I mean, we can talk about Rodriguez. We can talk about Anzalone.
Those are the guys that's like, oh, yeah, we have been without Rodriguez for a couple of weeks now. Like, that's almost like in the past. Like, oh, yeah.
And we're not talking about sprains. We're talking about ACL tears and broken bones. These are things that take months to recover from. So it's not like little bad. I remember, I don't know if you remember the show where Dave, our good buddy from the Minnesota Vikings, Skull Vikings podcast, he said the 2 games we lost was because Cashman wasn't there.
Right.
I can't make this up. It's on the footage. He actually said that, and I'm like, here I am saying we're not going to use injuries as an excuse. But then I hear all these other excuses from these teams that's missing 1 player, 2 players. Same energy, fellas. Well, as soon as we lose a game, you're not who you think you are. We're ready to play you guys. But as soon as you have an injury and lose a game, 1 injury, there's an excuse. We don't do that around here. It's next man up. You know what I'm saying? It's Detroit versus everybody. This is what we do. So today, Foster, I am looking forward to this game. I think it's not a game of redemption because I don't feel like we have to redeem ourselves to anyone, but this is a game where I think the Lions will win. I don't think it'll be a close game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a close game, but I would be surprised if we lost today. But I think the Lions go into Soldier Field. I think we win. I think it's not close. I'm not going to say it's a blowout, but they're reeling over there. They are reeling. They've had a change of the guard as far as coaching, change of the guard as far as offensive coordinator. Caleb is still not being protected. They have a wishy-washy running game. It's not consistent. And that offensive line is just not where it should be. They didn't do any upgrades to the offensive line, and that was a weakness last year, and they didn't make any improvements. So I expected Caleb to have a rough year because of that offensive line. Defensively, they got some playmakers. However, we all know just 1 or 2 people ain't going to cut it on defense. You do have a couple of good defensive linemen. You do have a good corner. And you have Brisker back there as safety. He's decent, but they can't do it all game. And when you have a prolific offense that can move the ball, whether it's running the ball, whether it's deep, intermediate passes, dump offs, and an efficient quarterback, you're going to have some problems. Buffalo's defense is pretty decent, and they showed their domination early, but it just didn't last long. It didn't last long. I think we were a turnover away. If we don't have that turnover, I think that game is a W. Even though we played horrible defensively. So what we have to do is, while we're struggling on defense, we have to have the kind of offense that's going to generate the points for us. We saw that last year versus San Diego, where it was a shootout. Our defense did not come to play that particular day, and they were pretty healthy. And San Diego scored at will. We just happened to score more than them. So
yeah,
it happens. That's why I wasn't fazed when we lost to the Bills. It just reminded me of versus the Chargers. It reminded me of a game versus Baltimore last year. Our defense had 2 pretty bad games versus those 2 people, and we bounced back. And that's what we're going to do today. We got this game today. I think we're going to win. Then we go into San Francisco. some pretty good weather conditions to play, and then we had the finale versus Minnesota. And what people are not talking about is after we lost versus the Bills, how the pressure's on us. Those other teams, like the Vikings, have some stuff. They have to win on their own as well. It's not just on us. They have to win their games. You got Minnesota that has to go into Seattle, and they have to play a Packers team for the second game, a Packers team that's trying to get into the playoffs. That's going to be a tough game for them. Guarantee it's going to be a tough game. So for those people that are looking at the Lions and what they did last week and licking their chops, you still have to play your games, and you got some tough games ready for you too. Green Bay, they have to play Minnesota. I don't know who they play today, but it's not – Green Bay is not one of those teams I worry about because they're back in the standings. Like, they're not going to catch us.
We beat them twice, so they'd have to do a whole lot.
Yeah. And then, like Minnesota, you got to go into Seattle today and win, and you have to beat a hungry Green Bay Packer team. So nobody has it easy. And then you have to face us. You have 3 difficult games left on your season. And I like our chances with our 3 games than Minnesota has with their 3 games. I just like our chances better. Even during the head-to-head. I think by game 17, we'll be ready to play Minnesota here in Detroit. It's going to be rocking. We're going to have a good time. Foster, you want to put a bow on this?
Yeah, I mean, so I think one of the biggest keys for the game today is keeping the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands, running the ball, controlling the time of possession. That's something that we did very well last time we played the Bears. Between Montgomery and Gibbs, we had about 170 plus rushing yards. So that's definitely going to be a challenge to match that effort, obviously. But yeah, outside of that, we need to convert in the red zone and on third down. It's one of the things that kept them in the game last week. I think we went into halftime with like a 13-0 lead, or they hadn't scored any points. But the fact that we weren't able to convert in the red zone is what kept them in the game and allowed them to get in the groove, because they were able to move the ball pretty well in the second half. I think we need to continue to get to Caleb Williams. We managed 5 sacks. That was one of Muhammad's breakout performances. So we need to continue that, because when he has time, he has a lot of different weapons. Enes Kanter, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. They do have some weapons on the outside, and we need to, DeAndre Swift is a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. We obviously got destroyed by the Buffalo's running backs in receiving situations. So we definitely need to clean that up. And, Aaron Glenn needs to continue to make adjustments. That was something that they said that he was not able to do last year. And he obviously was stepped up in the face of that scrutiny, and he needs to continue to do that. Despite the fact that we have a lot of injuries, and he's basically trying to, mix and match and create chemistry amongst a bunch of, some guys that have not been playing together for very long. So yeah. Oh, and then we got to protect the ball.
Definitely.
The Chicago Bears is a team that ranks in the bottom third in every category defensively, but they do get you off the field on third down in the red zone, and they do take away the ball. They're 7th in the league in takeaways, and they're 5th in plus minus. So they do a pretty good job of protecting the ball themselves. So with those turnovers, in the 2 games that we've lost, they definitely bit us in the back. So But one thing that we do have to remember, the 2 games that we lost, despite the fact that everybody, that they would like to think of us as an indoor team, a favorable weather team, we're undefeated on the road. The 2 losses we have this year were both at Ford Field for what it's worth. I don't know what that is, but yeah, we have not lost on the road yet, and I expect us to keep that streak alive.
I can explain that though.
Okay, what's up?
I mean, the second game was versus Tampa Bay. The offense just wasn't clicking. We lost 20-16 for whatever reason. I do have my reasons for that game. I think without a offensive player, a starter, a whole offensive starter did not play in any of the preseason games. And I'm talking offensive line, and I'm talking all position players. They did not play in the preseason. So the offense started off slow in game 1 and 2. That's just what it was. Versus the Bills are just good. I'm just going to keep it above. They're just good. And they had a chip on their shoulder. They had a lot to prove. They wanted to show that they could win on the road and beat an NFC elite team, and they did. So hats off to them. There's no excuse. They won. They won fair and square. They just won. As far as us being on the road, we have been the ultimate road warriors. We've been playing on the road and playing pretty good. So I expect us to play well today as well. So, Foster, I'm going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here, and we want to remind everyone to subscribe to Bleachers and Speakers on YouTube. The channel is growing. We are past that 200 subscriber goal. Now we're trying to get to 3. So we're trying to get to 300 subscribers by February. So, and then after we get there, we're going to shoot for 4. So, subscribe to Bleachers and Speakers on YouTube and check us out on all the podcast aggregators. That's Bleachers and Speakers, FFSN in your search. Download those episodes.
Get your lick back. If a nugget owe you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. Get your lick back. If a nugget owe you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat.